Now let's see who else he's had on his show. Oh, shit, Donald Trump.
Well, first of all, I'm the most militaristic person there is.
I didn't know they allowed porn on YouTube because there is so much dick sucking going on here. It is obscene. Just goes to show you'll never see a bad comment from someone named Eric.
Look, we have to deal with reality. And, you know, it all started.
His voice just cracked.
Because, as you know, folks are claiming you're a Clinton operative.
You know, I've never heard that. I heard it actually a few months ago.
What are you talking about? Obamacare worked just as it was meant to. It was meant to give the insurance Jews trillions of the Americans' money. Okay, I take back what I just said.
Because we can't do anything to make our country great if I don't win. I'll be watching television someplace. It'll be forget it. So I wrote a book called Crippled America. It's doing fantastic business. I don't know if you can see that.
Are you starting to feel woozy in the daytime? Check out our SalviEric.com dialysis machine. Hook yourself up to this bad boy and get that blood regular.
I just want to finish by saying your reputation's amazing. I will not let you down. You will be very, very impressed, I hope. And I think we'll be speaking a lot.
Okay, well, my investigation is complete. I'm going to record my findings thusly. Yo, Alex, I need your advice, man. My friends stopped inviting me to parties because I keep bringing up your videos about how Sandy Hook was staged and the Illuminati is putting mind-control drugs in our tap water. I've tried hanging out with people who agree with me, but they all...
Article 13.
Okay, so they're banning memes. Got it. Well, fuck, that's not good. I mean, memes are like half the internet, so I can see why people are so pissed off. But I think for me, I need a little bit more information before I go commenting on this predicament. So maybe my students can help by weighing in on Twitter. I'm just going to go ahead and tweet Article 13 and tweet. Now, if my internet comment etiquette, this is the show where I teach you how to be proper and respectful among the infinite freedoms of the World Wide Web. Freedoms to create and share, freedoms to express yourself at just about any... And here's the Chief Business Officer of YouTube. Disappointing outcome today in the EU copyright vote. We're concerned about what this means for the open... My friends stopped inviting me to parties because I keep bringing up your videos about how Sandy Hook was staged and the Illuminati is putting mind-control drugs in our tap water. I've tried hanging out with people who agree with me, but they all live with their parents and are 14. I mean, you must have friends your age, right? You're the one coming up with all this stuff after all, so how do you keep them from getting sick of you? I don't want to stop telling people about how every major tragedy in America was a false flag perpetrated by the government in order to fulfill the globalist agenda, but I'm just so lonely. I miss explaining to my friend Rudy why Obama is the greatest threat to national security we've ever had while he stares at his phone sighing. I also miss going out on dates, but I can't risk having a girlfriend with an RFID chip in her arm, and when I try to check, they always freak out and leave. Do you have a girlfriend? How does she stand you? Maybe I should just give up and try not to swing every conversation into conspiracy theories, but that's exactly what the New World Order wants. So
to this question that's come up with Sinclair Broadcasting. Alex was first kind of picked up out of nowhere. I mean, he was on little mom and pops that maybe he paid for, maybe he didn't, or he'd go on and off on shortwave radio, you know, on a paid shortwave time, to a syndication out of KLBJ-AM by Bob Sinclair, who actually came down. And so I find that really suspect. And I think the most suspect thing that people can really look at when they're looking at this, and they're looking at, wow, maybe our media is just totally not independent, which is really what I'm beginning to feel, and even social media, like these huge concerns that we have, right?
This is good in the book, and I already know it is. These Spawn-hit neck QSL cards are not only highly coveted, but they're suitable for framing.
Wrap up, you know, I go to latex.
A bit messy, but anyway, I like the saran wrap. It comes in sheets. It's very, very convenient, and you can get it at a corner store.
I want to congratulate Mark Breslin, who made the New York Times obituary this past weekend without having to die. Congratulations,
Thank you.
Mark Breslin.
Thank you.
Before I say goodbye to Kelly, let me introduce Kelly to Mark Breslin, because she is a comedian, she's a baby mama, a sex educator, a political activist.
Well, already we've got stuff in common.
And she ran for Railroad Commissioner of Texas and received 380,000 votes.
Wow, some people will do anything to get a free railway pass, huh? And it was Coach. I mean, that's really sad.
You've pulled a couple of trains. Oh, I can't even do that joke.
Yes,
Pulling a train is bad, isn't it? That is a terrible expression.
I realized I was silently shaking my head, and because this is an audio forum, I want the listeners to know that I was definitely shaking my head as Dave.
How bad is that? Yeah, in comedy, that was when I was starting out, it was perceived as consensual. Never. Bad. I apologize. Wrong.
I did do a TED Talk about rape jokes and stand-up comedy, so feel free to check that
Mark
out.
Breslin, Kelly.
I did a TED Talk about rape, so we're on the same page.
We're like cousins.
But before Kelly goes,
Mark
Breslin, you have said on the show, Mark runs Yuck Yucks. It's the largest comedy chain in North America, perhaps the world. And there have been some comics who say, female comics who say, I'm not going to a comedy club. I don't need to hear rape jokes. And Mark says that there have been no, that didn't you once sit down in one of your clubs?
No, I sat, when she said that, I thought, wait a minute, I really can't remember hearing any rape jokes. So while I'm sitting in the club over the next couple of months, I'm going to see how many I can count. And I counted none. And the reason I counted none is because we use only professional comedians, and professional comedians generally don't do rape jokes. And the second reason is it's not that the comics are such an enlightened crew, it's just that you can't do much with them if they're careerists. You can't play festivals, you can't go on television, you can't do them on streaming. So why bother developing material you can't even use in the long run? But I haven't found that there's a lot of rape jokes going on.
Yeah, but like I just did a train joke because Kelly was running for.
It's not a comedy club.
But
it's your apartment. Many things go on in your apartment that don't go on in comedy clubs. At least I hope they do.
I do have a bouncer. Train jokes. That's a rape joke, right?
Often,
Sort of.
yeah. I mean, it's an implication.
It's an implication. Do you think, Mark, that there are implications of rape in comedy?
I haven't even heard any train jokes. So I can't say.
Right.
As far as consensuality goes, I mean, somebody like, let me remember her name, Annie Sprinkle, in her one-woman show. I don't know if you ever saw it, Kelly. She did 2 one-woman shows. You know Annie Sprinkle? Yes.
No.
Great porn star / activist / Israel supporter. Those 2 things really go together. From the 70s. And she did these, after she finished her porn career, she did these shows about her porn career. And she was kind of like a pro-sex feminist. And they were amazing shows. They were breathtaking shows. They're shows I saw 20 years ago, 30 years ago. I still remember them. They're amazing. She would have done a train joke, and she would have liked the train.
Right.
I believe she had a pass. In fact, I believe she bought a pass for the train.
Euro-rail. Okay.
Yes, that's right.
Was she the one who handed out flashlights, or is that somebody else?
Yes, and I did it. I knelt when and that was her intermission, by the way. When, you could go get a drink, you could go to the bathroom, or you could look up her snatch. I chose to look up her snatch. And she gave out flashlights, and you could look in her vagina. And what I did, I found my car keys that had been lost. I don't know when I lost them, but it was a long, long time before. It was for a car I no longer own.
It was a Volvo, I believe.
Yes, it was a Volvo. That's right.
Wow.
That sounds like a very interactive show. I'm sorry I missed it.
Kelly, if you're really into, like concepts of sexuality and stuff, you should research her. See if that show is online somehow. It was a long time ago, though.
Well, before you go, Kelly, you go, what was your TED Talk about? And is there a proliferation of rape jokes in comedy?
So and that's sort of what I talked about, or that was a part of the point that I was making is, you know, and I learned this. I first started doing, my first open mic was at Helium Comedy Club in Philadelphia. And then I started, you know, going to like pizza joints and, you know, the places where you do open mics. And I remember to my horror that there were people standing in pizza joints telling rape jokes, and that was my introduction to comedy with these open mics. And
Pepperoni,
right? And
did you play Comet Pizza? And
it was so
Washington
disturbing. And then moving back to Texas, and it's a constant theme in many open mics is you hear homophobia, you know, rape, racism, you know, body phobia, you know, these different things. But so I gave a couple of examples of different local comics who no one's ever heard of before, but the jokes that they tell that are a part of their standard. But my point about it was, as an educator, talking about the pyramid of hate and how jokes are at the bottom of the pyramid. And when we only let in negative information and when we joke about things, it can lead to violent acts. And so that's what I talked about.
Well, Kelly, I want to remind you that the Jews built those pyramids.
Mark is Egyptian and proud of it.
Yes, lots of bricks that we've contributed to that. But so that was my point, and so that we can flip that on its head if we're bystanders, and where after an open mic we tell people like, hey, that's not funny, you know, and maybe having the bravery to say that, but to kind of speak up as a community for one another. But by no means am I trying to police language. Somebody has the right to tell a rape joke, but I have the right to tell them they're an asshole. Right. But I think there are really smart ways that people talk about social issues in comedy that shines a light on it, that we can laugh at ourselves and what's wrong with us and move forward. And I think there's other ways that people make fun of victims, and I don't think that that's productive for us.
Right.
But Kelly, you know, making fun of victims is something that an amateur comic does. A professional comic has moved on just the same way that a musician starts with a bunch of, you know, really easy to do power chords, and everybody goes, yeah, that's great. But, you know, eventually we'll move away from the easy power chords to something more sophisticated. I don't take anything seriously that I see at an open mic night. I'm watching rank amateurs, and I do mean rank.
Right. Kelly Stone is a baby mama, a sex educator. She is a comedian. She also got 380,000 votes for Texas Railroad Commissioner in Texas this year. And I love having you on the show. Tell us about your Zoom show and how people can come to it.
So this Friday night, it's at 8 p.m. every Friday night, Central Standard Time, not Eastern Time, and it's Kelly Stone's Corona Comedy with Candidates Crap Show. Every week I have two candidates who are running for office somewhere in Texas. This last week I had Amy Clark Meacham, who's about to be the first woman Chief Justice of the Supreme Court of Texas, as one of the candidates on my show. And I also had a woman who's about to be the first trans woman to represent several counties in West Texas at the State House. I also have a musical guest and a comedian. And so it's a lot of fun. It's a free show currently, and we just ask for tips for the talent. And so you can come to that on Zoom, and you can find me on Facebook at Funny Kelly and get more information about that.
Fantastic. Thank you so much, Kelly.
Thank you so much.
Come back next week, please.
Yes.
Okay, thank you. What were you going to say? No? Everybody's watching. No. Thank you. Mark Breslin joins us. He is the founder and president of Yuck Yucks. It is the largest comedy chain in North America, perhaps the world. He also has an Order of Canada. Only, 500 people have the Order of Canada?
Something like that, yeah.
And he joins us today from Toronto.